Hey guys, it's Crystal Briefs. Previously I said I was going to do a thorough test on the new familiar talents, and in this video I want to go through the results of the test I've done. So I tested freaking 12 different conditions in a ranged blast situation and compared among familiars people were concerned about. So I tried to simulate 4 kinds of targets, which were light, middle, heavy, and abysmal targets. A light target causing few losses while never getting a walkback from an abysmal target. Each of those situations were tested against 3 phalanxes. I didn't do the wedges because that would have killed me. This experiment took me like 3 hours, and I'm pretty sure this is the most comprehensive test YouTube has ever had on Lordsmobile. If you just want to see the conclusion, you can skip the video till the end, but if you're curious about the test results, keep watching. First, let me go over how I did the experiment because I think it's important. I used my main account with the new army talent done, and basically I did a ranged blast against my much weaker ult by 1/1000 scale. Doing it on camp would have been much easier, but as I said in the previous video, camp testing is different from testing with the castle. In each of the 12 conditions, I compared Magus, which has the new army talent, to Griffin, Shield, and Stacker, and saw how they performed by taking the margin between the casualties of both the attacker and the defender. And this is my preset of the blast. And everything except for the 5th slot of the familiars are fixed throughout the test to make sure the change of the result is only caused by the familiar in the 5th slot. Formation the attacker used for the blast was Cav Wedge. On the other hand, the defender can change 2 things. One is the troop count, and the other is the phalanxes. I tested 4 troop counts against 3 phalanxes, which would make 12 conditions. It's important to test multiple conditions when anything new comes up in this game, or if you can't afford the time to do so, it's okay to test only 1 condition like most people do, but you have to ensure that condition reflects a real situation that you encounter most frequently. Also, it's important to bear in mind that the results I'm going to present to you in this video is only roughly applicable to blast situations and not to defending a rally or wonder rallies by any means. Okay, so this is the overview of the first setup in a table, and the example report looks like this. And let's pop up the first set of results, which include 3 conditions, each of which is in different phalanx. So in this first set of results, if you look at the attacker's casualties, they're quite small because they simulate an easy target. The reference is where the 5th slot is empty. I've colored yellow for the familiar that performed the best in each condition, and red for either Griffin or Magus that performed better. I also added rankings column to rank the familiars in order of performance. So for easy targets, Shield familiar seems to always be at the top, and Magus tends to be at the bottom. But if you look at the Cav Foul section, Magus is a bit better than the Stacker, and this is probably because the Stacker only activated once, and that's like only 100% attack added. In the next setup, I increased the troop count of the defender as shown in the table. And this is the example report for this setup. So in these 3 conditions, the attacker's casualties have doubled. It still simulates an easy target, but basically the attacker gets a reasonable amount of reds. As in the previous set of results, the Shield familiar is topping others, and Griffin is better than Magus in 2 conditions. But if you look at the Cav Foul section, Magus has actually performed better than Griffin. The reason is probably because my army has to retarget to inf when cavalry the front line is gone, and the transition in targets is probably what downplays Griffin. However, Griffin still did more damage than Magus. Moving on to the next setup, I further increased the troop count of the defender to simulate a near-cap rally. And this is the example report. So if you look at the attacker's casualty, it's close to being capped. And there's the plot twist. Magus is performing better than Griffin in 2 out of 3 conditions. And the Stacker started to overtake the Shield familiar because if you think about it, the Stacker probably activated like 7 to 8 times. So 700% to 800% is added in every case. However, there's something interesting going on. If you look at the Cav Foul section, adding familiars to reference is somehow making the results worse than the reference, which is logically bizarre. When I look at the battle movie of these, actually there was a difference in the squad retargeting sequence, the cause of which is unknown to me. So somehow adding 5th slot familiar affected the retargeting sequence, which is not supposed to. My hypothesis is that it's due to really slight change to the initial movement of the buffer squads, which I noticed in the battle movie. And that slight change might be due to pseudo-random numbers assigned to each battle. It's long been known that the combat simulation has pseudo-random numbers assigned to affect the battle in some way, but that effect usually doesn't manifest because the results tend to be perfectly consistent. So I think we should treat this cav file section as an outlier to be omitted from analyses. So we are reaching the last setup to discuss. In this one, I increased the troop count so that the attacker never gets a walk back. And the example report looks like this. Now, if you look at the attacker's casualties, you'll notice that in every case it's a cap. There's no way to get a walk back from this. So the change we'll only see is in the defender's casualties. And in this case, the stacker is topping other familiars because it literally stacks attack stats as the attacker loses troops. And in this setup, Magus didn't perform really well. The effect is just a bit lower than Griffin. And actually what's striking about the results is if you look at the cav file section, Shield is actually performing better than the stacker. I think this is because the troops are surviving longer and did more rounds of attack than for the stacker. So I think we've gone through enough results to draw some meaningful conclusions. So Griffin was better than Magus in 9 out of 11 conditions overall, one condition omitted due to being an outlier, so there's absolutely no urgent need to replace Griffin with the new army talent. However, Magus improved the casualties in the attacker in 6 out of 8 conditions, especially against a near-cap target. So if you want a better walkback rate, you might want to consider replacing Griffin with the new army talent. Also, for the most popular pay-to-play lineup, the new army talent does not replace any of them immediately. But for free-to-play players or low spenders, the new army talent should be very useful and can be used together with Griffin. I didn't include Tempestite in this comparison because it produces among the most inconsistent results. So I hope that was helpful and kind of corroborates what others have found out. I hope you saw the depth of this game in terms of the battle. You have to bear in mind that different conditions produce different results, thereby leading to different conclusions. Also, please feel free to use the data in this video for your own analyses, since there's some interesting stuff that I didn't address. I'm a bit tired of testing, so a couple of videos after this might have no testing, but there's a lot of interesting and useful topics that can be done without testing. So if you want more of that, I really appreciate you subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you later.